start.
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining this webinar on how to implement a customer feedback strategy. We are super excited. Why? Because we'll show you how our users tripled the number of feedback items over the past year. And we have interviewed many of them, and we share some valuable insights with you. Basically, we will discuss what the customer feedback strategy is and how to establish it. And then we'll show it to you on our example and on the example of others. If this sounds interesting, please stay tuned for the next 30 minutes. And now I will pass the word to my colleague, Ashley.
So basically, first, we want to know who you are because we want to tailor this webinar for your needs. And let's do that in the chat. So I just sent a message over in the chat. And I want to ask you, what do you do? And you can type 1 if you're a product manager, type 2 if you're a customer experience or a user experience manager, and type 3 if you're a customer success or customer support manager. And if you're something else, tell us what you're up to, tell us all the cool things that you're doing, and then we'll be able to address them later.
Awesome.
So let's also introduce ourselves, right? So I'm Ashley, and I'm in the product marketing team in UserSnap. And what I do is I help SaaS companies, basically our customers, to understand the value of customer feedback. And I also listen to their customer feedback to take into our product so that we can build the customer feedback platform that they need.
Awesome. And I'm Luca. I work as a product specialist at UserSnap. And in the past 2 years, I had the opportunity to work with our team and to improve our product, but also to consult more than 300 other companies so far to hear their stories, their challenges, their pains, and then to find the solutions together. So now, Ashley, do we have some roles before we start?
Yeah, so I see product managers and also growth marketers and people in marketing. So welcome to you all, and you are all very relevant. I'm very glad of that. And yeah, so let's move on.
Let's move on. Just one word about UserSnap, a few words actually before we start. What is UserSnap? UserSnap is customer feedback software. It's a place for all your bug reports, feature requests, customer ratings, all in one. And UserSnap basically helps companies to quickly get customer validation, but also to make confident product decisions without worrying about overwhelming users, difficult onboarding, or high costs. As you can see real quick on this page, we served more than 60,000 customers worldwide, and our feedback widgets were displayed more than 300 million times so far. So you can be sure that we have a lot of insights for you. The most important thing is that we tripled the feedback items. Our customers tripled the feedback items they collected last year, right? So now, Ashley, do you want to add something, or we can move on?
Yeah, I just want to say it's been a very exciting year for us. And with so many customers and so many feedback, we have really learned a lot. And that's what we're here to share with you today. We will talk about some of the real cases that our customers have, and some of their real problems, and some of the real implementations that they have done, and you can learn from that. Awesome. So yeah, let's jump in.
All right. So.
Okay. Yeah, so we want to always start with a problem, right? And this problem, we hope that you also experience it. So this question to you is, do you have a SaaS product but struggle to get the feedback that you're expecting? We know it is difficult to collect feedback, and you do want feedback from your customers so that you know if you're going the right direction. And do many people face this problem, Ruka?
Yeah, I think many of them. Based on my previous conversations with like more than 300 companies, you're not alone. And one of the most frequent problems we heard from them is that they really struggle, with the insights, and they all have a lack of insights there. Or they struggle to just allow and make it simple for their customers to give any type of feedback, within their app. The third thing, most of the times, is that they struggle with communication to their devs and to avoid and save time, those multiple back and forths. And last but not the least, and maybe the most important, is that they lack that overview of what to build next. So without enough feature requests, it's really hard to predict what your customers will use in the future. With that in mind, we come to a question: why are you here today? So basically, setting up the whole customer feedback strategy right way and solving the problems we discussed previously and on the previous slide resulted so far, based on our customer experience, in reliable product decisions. This means once you develop your product in the right way, you'll have more customers and eventually you'll have more revenue. And on the other side, it will also help you improve the customer retention, because with more feedback, your customers will feel like they're being heard. You'll make the right changes to your product, to their experience, and then they will not churn. So they will stay loyal to you in the future. Next comes let's say the core and what the right feedback strategy consists of. So basically, there are 4 steps to develop the right feedback strategy. Everything starts from asking the customers for feedback. Then once you collect that feedback, we come to the categorization and analysis of that feedback. The third step includes acting on that categorized feedback, and then of course closing the loop and following up with the customers. Actually, before we start with the first step, do you have something to add maybe?
So yeah, we actually do have a feedback in the chat area about your microphone, Luca. So I think maybe I just want to say, Christoph, we heard you, and then Luca, I want to remind you, I think we can hear you loud and clear. So just don't shout, but overall it's fine.
Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can do this like this. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Perfect. If you have any questions during this webinar, please feel free to write it in the chat and we will cover it later. The first step in the feedback strategy and setting up the feedback strategy is about asking for feedback. So this part starts from, starting from the problems and the goals you want to achieve. So it could be that, you want just to see how satisfied your customers are with your product. Or it could be that you can, that you want to find out what are some issues that frustrate your users. On the other hand, maybe you want to, to collect feature requests so that you can make that product decisions that matter later on. So depending on these goals and problems you want to solve, we come to the part on where you ask for feedback. And you can do it basically in 2 ways. You can do it actively or you can do it passively. The difference is that if you use active feedback, this is, in simple words, these are the pop-ups, right, that you fire at certain occasions. So they are always company initiated because you decide where and to which audience you want to fire pop-ups. They're a bit aggressive, right, because they interrupt the user journey. So you should really take your time and analyze at which steps, at which points you want to fire these pop-ups. And yeah, the downside of them is that they can really annoy your customers if you fire too many pop-ups. This happened to us once, and since then we heard it the hard way, and now we are we improved, I would say, significantly. The other way is to collect the passive feedback. So passive feedback is basically if you just place a button or a tab on your website, and then a user can initiate it when they want. So as you can see, the benefit of it is that you do not interrupt their journey. It's not aggressive. And eventually you send, and this is maybe the main benefit, is that you send the clear message to the user, to the customer, that you welcome their opinion and their feedback, and that you're kind of embracing the feedback culture. With that in mind, we come sorry, just a sec. Let me show my screen real quick.
I'll share the Hawaiian Airlines example later.
It's good. Okay. All right. So with this in mind, we just want to show you how we collect feedback. So once you log in to UserSnap dashboard, right? So you will notice that we have a noticeable blue button, and this is right, the passive feedback on the right side of the screen. At the beginning, what happened also to us, right? So at the beginning, whenever you would click on this feedback button, we didn't provide any instructions, any guidelines to our users. So whenever they would click on it, we would just capture the screen and then they would annotate on it, right? And provide feedback. So they were a bit confused, but is this a way to submit a bug? Is this a way to submit a suggestion? My rating? How do I do that? And we heard this feedback from them, and that's why we implemented this menu widget in this case, right? So now, and since then, we started receiving more and more feedback. We are not saying that we are the only solution in the market. So whatever customer feedback solution you choose out there, make sure that you always give your users multiple options, right? So when they click on that button, they can easily report an issue if they want, they can submit a suggestion, or maybe chat with your support team, or visit a help center, right? So by doing this, it also tells them in their subconsciously that if I submit a suggestion, this will probably go to the right team, and that they will really make my voice basically be heard. Once this is done, right? Once we collect passive feedback, we also start collecting active pop-ups. As I said, we made one mistake. We fired too many pop-ups. And since then, we revised and audited the whole process. And now we only fire the active pop-ups at specific occasions, right? So what we do, I'll show you 2 or 3 examples. But basically, once one pop-up that we fire is in the churning process. What happened to us in the past was that we didn't get enough churn reasons, right? If you have a SaaS tool, you probably know how big problem the churn process is. People churn, it fluctuates from month to month. Sometimes you have high churn rate, low churn rate. You cannot affect it. And we added pop-ups whenever they go to the churn process that you can see here. Whenever I select one of the, let's say, missing features buttons and tabs, I get a different pop-up. So for example, when they mention it's too expensive, we give them 50% off in the next 2 months, right? When they say that they're missing some features, we ask them what features are you missing, and then also try to somehow compensate that. How this result? So basically, since we deployed that, we really got more and more feedback and more churn reasons. So now, as you can see, we really have that segmentation on why people churn, and we can adjust our message, based on their reasons, based on their feedback. Eventually, this helped us reduce churn significantly in the past quarter. Another pop-up that I will show you and how you can also use the active feedback is to have upgrades, and to upgrade existing plans. So as I said, it doesn't make sense, that when someone log into your platform, that you just fire a pop-up asking, do you want to upgrade? But rather, there should be really specific points in their journey. So what we do is that when they want to create a new project and when they're on their limit, so when they're, let's say, when they use 10 out of 10 projects, we fire a pop-up, in this case, offering a referral. So if they refer us to their friends, they will get more projects. But also in the past, we use basically this to try to upgrade them to a higher plan. Eventually, as you can see, this is a point that it's really relevant to them. So whenever you fire pop-ups, if you decide to collect that type of feedback, make sure to be really at the right time to the right person. Other than that, we also fire NPS score, to check on their loyalty. Will they recommend us after 90 days? But we will not touch that deeper right now. Do you have anything to add here, or should I continue with the presentation?
I can share the Hawaiian Airlines example. And yeah, I just want to say that to the audience, you can see how we have heavily experimented with different types of customer feedback. And for product managers, you can see that within the product, you can have many different types of interaction with your customers regarding feedback. And also growth marketers, you can see some of our pop-ups, they're kind of like our growth hacks. and you can use feedback to understand more about how you should build your growth marketing strategies and tactics. So here is Hawaiian Airlines website, which you can book your travels to Hawaii. And they have the website, the web widget, the feedback widget over here embedded, and it also opens up to a feedback and support menu for you to contact their support team or for you to give some feedback. They have this emoji rater, and then also follows up with some more qualitative data questions. And then they also have the bug reporting widget. So the most impressive thing over here is actually not on my screen, and I have to tell you verbally. But the thing is that after they have embedded this feedback widget for the website, they have already doubled the amount of customer feedback that they're getting. And yeah, with way more customer feedback, they now have way more ideas of how to improve their booking journey. And also some of the features that they added are based on customer feedback. And I just think that is so cool, because when we say passive feedback, you may think, oh, what is passive feedback? It sounds passive, but it's not. It's also great. And you can also collect a lot of feedback with just the feedback button.
Thanks,
so yeah, you can continue, Luca.
Awesome. Yeah, one point here is that I think there's a huge trend in the airline industry. I think that will kind of pass to other industries too. But if you go to any website, almost any website, they all have buttons, feedback buttons on the screen, on the homepage. I guess that's the easiest way for customers, right, to communicate with. All right. The next part. So let's say this is the second step. So once you ask for feedback actively or passively, comes the part where we need to the analysis and the feedback categorization. So if you don't organize this feedback, right, it will probably turn into like endlessly scrolling spreadsheet, and you know how that feels, right? Like your brain hurts when you mention it. Having, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of feedback items in the spreadsheet is not fun at all. So when it comes to categorizing the feedback, it's important, especially, in our case, what we realized, to have different buckets for every category of feedback you collect. Why? Because it just makes the whole work easier, and it saves a lot of time, that you would actually spend on the actual work, on the manual work, and kind of categorizing everything, and spending hours on that. So what we do in this case, let me just show it to you. So, and that's probably something you can do depending on okay, now I have issues with my mouse again, but okay, you can see my screen, perfect. So what we did, we kind of grouped all the feedback we get into 3 categories, right? We have product feedback with its subcategories. We have then customer service feedback and marketing and sales feedback. If we talk about the product feedback, basically it consists of bugs and feature suggestions. So if I look in our dashboard, for example, for bug tracking, right, and then go to the bug tracking project, you'll see, these are kind of bugs that our customers report. And then for every bug that you have, you can kind of add filters, right? So when you click on it, for example, you can see, the screenshot and maybe more details about it, so that you're kind of aware and you make sure that this feedback is relevant. And then later on, you can add labels to it to better kind of filter it, put it into different categories, select the same maybe bugs, at once, and then delete them or pass them under further, and so on. So this is when it comes to bugs. When it comes to feature suggestions, we also collect feature suggestions in a separate bucket, right? So as you can see here, we have a platform project that is kind of feature requests, and whenever we receive a new one, it goes directly here where we kind of label it and manage it further. The second comes the customer service feedback. So this is the second category we have. I don't know if you're using something similar or nothing, but if you have a customer support team, they often, right, they're on the first line along with the sales team in the communication with the customers. So whenever they hear a lot of valuable feedback, right? So whenever they hear a new feedback, what they do is that they also send us all their suggestions to UserSnap. So we also use intercom as chat support. So, you know, whenever they have something there, they pass it here so that we can centralize all the feedback at one place. And you can see also, right, the labels. We label every feedback, you know, so that later on we can easier filter it, prioritize it, and so on. The third category belongs to the sales and marketing teams. So whenever in our customers call with the existing ones or the potential ones, in user research calls also, we hear a lot of suggestions. And then we also use one bucket solely for that. Right? So when we collect all these feedback items, we have Christina. Christina is the hardworking girl who goes through all these feedback items and then basically prioritize and, you know, basically interact with the design team and the dev team on what to implement next. So this is like, just to make it real quick, to summarize what you should do when it comes to categorization based on the problems and the goals and how you ask for feedback. You should kind of categorize the feedback into different buckets based on those categories. You know, so if you collect bugs, you should have a category for bugs. If you collect suggestions, you should have also a category for that. Also, when it comes, you know, to marketing and sales, just have them all their own kind of bucket where they can submit feedback, so it's easier for you to track it. So I think that would be it. And Ashley, maybe you can show an example of our customers, how they are doing it.
Yeah, so I have two examples that I shared a screenshot on the slides, if you can just kindly go to it. So the first example is from, so the left example, this one is from a customer that does video chat app. They are quite popular, but unfortunately, we're not able to reveal who they are. And in August, you can see they have like almost 2,000 feedback from their customers. And this is more like support tickets. So with that huge amount of tickets, it's very difficult to manually go through them. And what labels, what grouping they have chosen is that apart from very like high priority or like bugs sort of things that they definitely need to fix, they also have the labels for not enjoying the app, improvement needed, and enjoying the app, to kind of segment the different sentiments of their customers. And this also helps them to get a good overview of if their customers, while submitting tickets, are happy and staying with them, willing to stay with them, or if there's something that is a bit alarming and they need to do. And the second example on the right over here, so if you look at the corner, the most used labels. So this company, they are using labels for different types of channels. So they have the website, mobile, email, and social, and support 5 different channels. And they would use labels based on that to help them understand their NPS score, where it's coming from, and where it needs improvement. So it's very important to have different types of grouping and find the grouping, find the labels, find the themes that make sense for your company and how you want to go towards your goal of collecting feedback. And by the way, so I just want to remind everyone that you can send us questions. I have already received 2 questions in the Q&A section. And yeah, so if there's any questions while we are talking and presenting, just send them in and we'll have that covered towards the end.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next part comes right once you ask for feedback, once you collect the feedback and categorize it. Nothing is worth if you don't share it, right? So it's always time to act on it. With whom you will share it, this really depends, you know, on your team structure and how you categorize it. But regardless, you need to share it. You need to act on it. We found that too many companies kind of fail at this point. So what they do, they collect it, but then they just leave it somewhere in the air. So please make sure to always share the feedback with the relevant stakeholders. What I will show you now is really quickly what we do with it. So if you go here, just give me a sec. I still have issues. all right. So I will just show you on one example. For example, for the bugs, whenever we collect a new bug, what we do, as I previously said, we collect it in UserSnap, we tag it, categorize it, and at that point, we send it further to Jira, right? In Jira, our dev team basically analyze it, act on it, and then they tell our product team to do the rest, regarding the customers and so on. So the same applies for all the bugs for the feature suggestions that we get. We always kind of tend to to inform the right team and share it with the relevant stakeholder as soon as we get it. So Ashley, maybe you also want to say something about one of our customers, how they are doing it, and not only how we share bugs, but what is also possible to be shared, what type of feedback.
Okay, so I have an example from Dynatrace. So Dynatrace, if you don't know, is an AI and automation platform that monitors the performance and security of different websites, and is very commonly used for like government sites and different agencies. They're quite big, and how do you know they're quite big? Because they have over 2,000 employees over the world. And with 2,000 employees, that is very difficult to share feedback. So what they do is they actually have different Slack groups set up for different stakeholders, different teams. So Slack groups for the marketing team, Slack group for the website team, and Slack group for the development team. And the people in charge of the feedback, they will send that to the according Slack groups so that people get notified. And the good thing about Slack is that it's already a tool that they daily use, and it's not interrupting their workflow. They don't need to go to another platform to check the feedback. They can just get it within Slack, and that flows really well. So they can really kind of absorb and listen to the feedback and kind of internalize it, so that when they need to act on it or when they need to make some decisions, it's very customer centric.
Thank you, Ashley. Amazing. Guys, if you have any questions about this use case or so on, please use the chat. We are almost near the end. So the last part of the customer feedback strategy is to close the loop. The last, but maybe the most important. Why? Because regardless of what feedback your customers share with you, is it positive? Is it negative? Regardless of that, you need to make it easy for them, to give it, and then that they feel that their voice is being heard. So one research tells that around 82% of customers, they don't feel like sharing the feedback with the company, because of exactly that reason, that their voice will not be heard. So how we actually do this and how you can do this. We'll use a classic example, right? If you text your friend, your loved one, that something, and then if they reply back to you after 2 days or a week, that something tells you that there's something wrong, some gut feeling, right? So the same thing you can apply here. If a customer writes you and sends you feedback and you don't get back to them as soon as possible, they will simply leave, right? So that's why that response time is super important here. So the last thing, what I will show you is how we manage this. So whenever we get a new feedback, okay, I still have issues with this, nevertheless. So whenever we hear, for example, a new feature suggestion, what we do when we get it in UserSnap, as I said, our hardworking Christina, she takes care of it. So, this is the comment. We send it automatically to Airtable, to Slack channel to notify the whole team about it. Then if someone knows this customer or wants to add some contribution, they can add it here in our dashboard. And eventually Christina replies back to the customer as soon as possible, right? So if this is a feature that we already have, she notifies them about it. If it's a feature that we will have, what she does is basically she tells them she appreciated feedback, both if negative, if positive, and then wants to do something about it. We come back to them to close that loop and eventually ask for their satisfaction with our response eventually. So more or less, this is when it comes to us, right? Ashley, You want to say?
Actually, I want to ask you to jump back to the user snap dashboard for a bit, because I have a question here that I want to show Daniel. So Daniel asked, can the feature request be voted up by the users in order to help establishing priority? And yes, the answer is yes. So Luca, if you can just kind of show a vote on a feedback.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In the sec, so let's move this. So we have here a feature. So if you have a few, few similar requests, you can use this upvoting feature to, vote for the ones that kind of, that occurs more often, so that eventually you can see which ones have the highest votes and that you can prioritize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there is upvotes internally and also externally. You can publish what we call a user snap board, and then with that board you can share it with your users, and then they can upvote when they are logged in. Okay, so I do want to quickly share some really cool results. The results are actually from us ourselves. So since we have been closing the feedback loop and listening heavily to our customers based on their feature requests, before we were only about implementing 26%, and then afterwards we were implementing like 54%. More than half of our items on the roadmap are from customers and what they say that we should improve. And since then, our MRR growth has been quite terrific. So over on the right, this graph is our month-on-month MRR growth. And although we can't show the exact numbers, but I can tell you it's over 400% month-on-month growth, which is quite amazing. And I said, this has been a really good year for us. And that's why we really want to encourage everyone to look at feedback carefully and understand what they mean, follow up with customers, and also the most important thing, to implement it on your product. And I think we are through.
Exactly, Ashley. Now it's time for, I would say, for questions and answers. We hope you like it so far. And now let's jump into them.
Okay, so we have already answered the question from Daniel. There is another question here. How can I connect the issues and feedback from the testing phase of a new product with the customer feedback or user snap? Can I integrate it with another tool? Do I need another software?
All right, sorry. Can you please repeat one more time? I had some issues with that.
Okay, then maybe you can check out the Q&A section and I will start answering first.
Let me do so.
Okay, so I think there are two ways to go about this, and the first way is if you want to have all of the feedback on user snap, then you can import the feedback into user snap from your testing phase. So you can actually import it one by one, or you can actually collect testing feedback with user snap. Some people, a lot of development teams especially, they would collect beta testing feedback with user snap with our visual feedback tool. So then you will have everything in one place, and then you can also very soon be able to move tickets in between projects so that you can have everything centered. And the second way is that if you want to export the feedback on user snap to another place, so that you can have everything, let's say in an Excel sheet or in Airtable or something like that, then you can export the feedback items with the metadata on user snap or outside to another tool as a CSV file or directly to Tableau or something like that.
Awesome.
I hope that answers the question. If not, you can type in another question.
Yeah, we have two more. One was, do you suggest to send feedback from clients to my developer? So we kind of partially touched this question. We did this in the past. So what we did, I mean, something similar. Whenever we received feedback, we were automatically sending it to a developer. So this is totally possible. I mean, also in UserSnap, probably with other tools that you send it automatically with an automatic integration. But eventually, you don't want to waste time of your developer. So maybe it makes more sense that when your client submits feedback, that you kind of first go through it and then decide, which one you will pass further to developers, because sometimes there's some spam, some typos, and something that developers shouldn't kind of be bothered with. So it's really up to you, but you can do it manually or automatically. We tend to say maybe manually is better way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the fourth question is, as a SaaS startup, which feedback type, NPS, CSAT, or OK, helps me getting the most feedback? Ashley, do you want to answer, or I can do it as you want?
Okay, I'll answer, and you can add to it if you want. So for SaaS startups, we would suggest CSAT or even the thumbs up and down rater, because that is very intuitive for your users to quickly know what to send you, and then they can quickly respond. If they respond faster, then they're more willing to respond and you get more feedback. So that is a great way to start. And for NPS is a little bit more about measuring the loyalty of your customers. And we recommend that you can send NPS maybe after 30 days of your users being on your app or on your website. And then you can follow up every 60 days or 90 days, depending on your product's life cycle. And through that, you can see if the NPS score is improving. That means if there are more promoters and more happy customers, or if there are more negative customers or negative feedback. And yeah, what is, I think, a rule of thumb over here is that, especially for startups, any sort of feedback, you need to close the loop. You need to follow up with them and really understand what the meaning, what the main core pain point is behind that feedback.
Yeah, that's quite cool. I mean, one thing I would add here, that is also when you say what would help me get the most feedback, you need to come back to that problem and the goal you want to achieve, right? What type of feedback you want to get and why, right? Do you want just to get a general feedback? Do you want to get, I don't know, do you want to test some features, and see are they satisfied with them? Because depending on this feedback and this problem that you want to solve, you will use a different feedback type for that, right? And so please keep in mind that connecting the feedback type you want to collect with the goal and the problem is crucial to make the whole process successful.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for adding that.
Yep, you're welcome.
Let me check if we have more. I think that is it.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, and also we are a little bit over time, so I think we can wrap up. There is one more slide that we want to conclude with.
Oh, yep, sorry, just give me. Yes.
So we hope this session has been helpful. And if you have more questions or if you want a more personal demonstration, Luca is your guy.
Exactly. Okay, I have issues with my. All right.
There we go.
Yeah, guys. So if you want to learn more about UserSnap, if you want just to talk about the customer feedback process and how to establish it, even though you have another software, or if you don't have any software, you don't have I don't know, funds or whatever, we can still have a talk and discuss your customer feedback strategy and how to get the most out of it. So just email me or Ashley, and then we will take it from there. We'll come back to you, right, to organize a session.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Then it has been fun, and
I enjoyed it. I hope that you guys also enjoyed it.
Yeah. So,
And
okay, you can wrap up, Luca.
all right, thanks a lot. What we'll do also in the future, we'll probably organize bi-weekly or monthly webinars. We'll keep you updated on that. And we'll also show you how we implemented our feature request process, how we increase dramatically the number of suggestions we get, so that you can hopefully also do the same. and have the same results, even better maybe.
Yes, and then one day you'll be up presenting with us, maybe.
Yep.
Sharing to the world.
Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.